Hello and welcome to another video. Now, today we're going to make fluffy pancakes. Now, there are a bunch of different styles of pancakes around the world. We've already made the Indonesian martabak. Today we're going to make something much closer to the very fluffy American types of pancakes like buttermilk pancakes. So, before I begin, I want to basically point out that pancakes come in a bunch of sizes and shapes. They range from things very much like crepes to things like martabak that are thick and big and stuff like that. So, one of the common aspects of these smaller pancakes, though, is that they are non-glutinous quick breads. So, this means you want to use a low gluten flour, and you can even use a gluten-free flour. So, if you want to, you can substitute barley flour, for example, for the wheat flour with good results. When we mix it together, we don't want to overmix because we don't want it to be chewy. And this will be leavened with mostly baking powder. So that's that. Now, if we want a really thick, fluffy pancake, we want a thicker batter that's going to hold the bubbles in better. And we want one that's also not going to form gluten in the same way. So we're going to do this. Sometimes people use buttermilk for that. But I'm going to take it one step further, and I'm going to use kefir. This is really, this is something that I've started, and it's really good. So let's go ahead and get started. For ingredients, the ingredients are pretty simple. I have 200 grams of flour. That's about 1 3/4 cups. I have 1 egg. Keep in mind, this is a big reason why it's hard to scale this recipe down to, say, a single serving. But that's okay. Leftover pancakes heat up great in the oven. For the rest of the dry ingredients, I have a tablespoon of sugar, tablespoon of baking powder, half a teaspoon of baking soda, and half a teaspoon of salt. And then I have around, it looks like 300, 350 or so milliliters of kefir. Now, kefir, I chose kefir because it's just a little thicker than buttermilk and it's a little fattier than buttermilk. So this will make the pancakes a little richer, and the fats actually help prevent gluten formation. So this will keep them from being chewy. So I also have some extra reserve kefir in case I need it, but we'll go ahead and get started now. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take the flour and I'm going to dump it into a bowl. And I'm going to mix it with the rest of my dry ingredients. I'm going to whisk it with a balloon whisk here. Once that's nicely whisked together and I have a little bit of a well at the bottom, I'm going to take my egg and just crack it in there like that. And then I'm going to take a fork and I'm just going to break the yolk a bit, as that'll make it easier when I go to mix things up. It won't be as much trouble. Then I'm going to pour in the kefir. Then I'm going to whisk this together again into a nice thick batter. And this is looking just a little bit thick, so I'm going to add a hair more kefir. Yeah, it's looking better. Yeah, that'll be good. So now I'm going to shake the rest of the batter out of the balloon whisk, and then we can go ahead and get started cooking. So one of the great challenges in cooking pancakes is pan temperature control. So what I'm actually going to do here is I'm going to leave a little bit of butter in the pan on top of what I've spread around. And I'm going to go ahead and let this start bubbling. And I'm actually going to wait until it starts to brown. I have it on high right now. Once it starts to bubble, I'll turn it down to like a medium. And basically once it starts to brown, I'll add the batter. One thing about the batter, you'll note the batter's kind of thick, in this kind of pancake, that's fine. The other thing is, if I wanted to put fruit like blueberries, I would probably prefer to use frozen blueberries that I then thawed and added. If you add fresh blueberries, they cook too slowly. Same thing with rhubarb. You can like chop rhubarb, freeze it, and then once it's thawed, add it, and that's really good. But frozen and thawed berries are much better than fresh. So I can see that this is just barely starting to brown. So I'm going to start with just a little bit here. And with this sort of batter, it's kind of important to just very gently spread it around a little bit when you add it, because it's a very thick batter, and we don't want pancakes that are impossible to get all the way done. And these are going to grow quite a bit while they cook. So I'm going to go ahead and let these cook. It'll be a few minutes on each side. And I'm going to wait until I can see that there is a nice solid crust in the bottom. And I'll be back. So here I can see the beginnings of a brown crust forming under the bottom. So I'm going to go ahead and flip this over. And with this kind of pancake, I like to flip it over early, because this part's now sealed. And so instead of the bubbles just kind of coming up, now the whole thing's going to balloon upward. So you can see these have already grown a little bit, but this is going to be, oops, these will get much bigger. And now we're just going to let these cook through. And now it's been just about 30 more seconds, and these are actually feeling kind of done. So I'm going to take them off. I'm going to line them up on a plate, kind of in a nice stack. And I will go over presentation while the next bunch cooks. Now, in between batches of pancakes, I will add a bit more butter to the pan. And you'll notice the pan gets hotter, even on medium. So at some point I may decide to turn it down a little bit, but this is where we start. So again, those are a little too close together. And there we go. So, under presentation. Best way to present pancakes is to add a slice of butter on top. And just, that will melt. But if you present it quickly enough, it'll be fine. And then just to pour a bit of whatever your topping is, and I'm doing this sort of very typical sort of Northeastern American thing of real maple syrup. And there we go. And here we have a delicious stack of very fluffy pancakes. In just a moment, I'll do the taste test. And now for the taste test. I'm just going to smooth a little bit of butter over these. And look at how big and thick these are. These are absolutely delicious. Very, 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 these are actually pretty much, although nobody uses kefir in the US, these are pretty much closest to the perfect American pancakes. So, thank you for watching. If you have any questions or comments, please, I'd love to hear from you. If you appreciate more content, please hit like and subscribe, and enjoy these wonderful, wonderful pancakes.